Well, here we are, almost Memorial Day weekend. And here in the big snow country, we're just now being able to get into our off-grid cabin. Now, there may be 80-degree weather in the forecast, but if you look around, you still find little piles of snow here and there. I love winter in this part of the country, but it's also nice to see it gone. Time to take a walk around the property and see how everything fared. The outhouse looks like it held up just fine. Seems like it was just the other day my brother and I built this thing. Now that there's very little threat of freezing temperatures, time to go wake up the well. Seems like any time that I let this well set for a long period of time, I'll pump 4 or 5 5-gallon buckets of water before it clears up. Just from sediment and silt finding its way down into that well point. But after a few buckets, it should be good for quite a while, provided it's used. First bucket definitely doesn't look like anything you want to drink. But by the time we get 2 or 3 buckets run through that pump, most of the sediment that's down in the bottom of that point has been pulled out. The water's nice and clear. Now it's great to see the snow gone and to be able to drive in here. But on the other hand, it shows me the giant mess that I left here last December when I finished building this cabin. I hate the thought of a spot this nice having trash all over it, and I'm going to take care of that today. The last trip I made last fall, well, there was 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground when I got there. I was trying to finish the trim, and I ended up with scrap wood and sawdust everywhere. And then the following day, about another 8 inches of snow. As a matter of fact, the snow here that I'm using to keep the orange juice and milk cold, it's probably some of the same snow that fell that day. Almost 6 months later, some of it's still here. Now that the well's up and running, and I've checked in on the outhouse, I'm going to give the cabin a good walk around. Most everything's in its place, except for maybe the pan and skillet. They were hanging up in the tree and something knocked them out.
A lot of places in the woods there's still snow banks. This guy's out, he's ready for summer. He just needs a little sunlight.
A little over a month it'll be the 4th of July, believe it or not. Time to get this mess cleaned up. Thinking maybe having a fire with all the scrap, but I have heard it's supposed to rain this afternoon. We'll see. When Brooke and I came here in March on snowmobiles, we left this snowmobile sled. It's got about 6 or 7 inches of water in it, so that tells you how much snow has fallen and or rain has fallen since then. I'll take it back home, but not right now. It can stay here at camp for the summer. The snowshoes, they can stay. You have to have snowshoes in this part of the country in the winter. And if I'm snowmobiling in here, they'll be waiting for me. My plan is, later on this summer, to bring in rocks to do a proper fire pit. But for right now, I'm just going to berm sand up around the edges of where I plan to burn this scrap, weather permitting. Not only is there a lot of scrap to burn up, there's also a lot of brush. Spruce boughs, white pine boughs, stuff I cut last year when I put this cabin in. It's piled up all around this building site in little piles. Throughout the summer, I plan on burning it a little bit at a time. When it's wet out, of course. This is forest fire country, so outdoor fires, there are a lot of times during the summer you don't really want to have one. I'll save the usable pieces. Everything else, it can be firewood. I still have to trim out the door, and then of course I have to trim out the windows on the outside of the cabin, and of course I have to side the cabin. All these things are on the list. But when I come up to the cabin, my favorite thing to do is just to sit on the porch and just do nothing. In today's world, it's really easy to stay busy. Sometimes it's hard to do nothing. But sometimes doing nothing is just what you need to do.
Starting to rain pretty good.
Ever since I started building this cabin, I've been looking forward to sitting on the porch and listening to it rain.
Been waiting all winter to hear that sound. I love listening to the frogs. Fantastic.
Now, in most parts of the country, it's almost summer. But here in the Lake Superior area, well, it looks like early spring still. And that's okay with me. Thank you guys so much for coming along on this trip. I hope you've enjoyed it. My name's Dave Whipple, and you've been watching Bush Radical. Now be radical, eh? See you soon.